Thank you for tuning in to Broken Brilliance, featuring entrepreneurs, professionals, community leaders, and other successful individuals from all walks of life that had to be broken, crushed, or stripped down to the studs to excel beyond measure and brilliantly rise up and walk in their purpose. Learn what is really real. Receive tips, tools, and resources you can use today so that you, too, can be brilliantly broken.
Welcome, and welcome to the inaugural season of the Broken Brilliance podcast. Come on in and take a seat. In fact, get comfortable. My name is Tawanda Livingston, your guide for your Broken Brilliance journey. I am humbled and honored to bring to you this season stories, testimonies, praise reports, resources, and gems of greatness that will activate the wealth warrior in you, the success savage in you, or the prosperous prophet in you. These comeback stories are from folks that looked failure in the eye and said, give it your best shot, because I refuse to go back to where I was. I refuse to worry about where I am going, and I am determined not to stand still in silence. These individual stories that you will get to hear will hopefully give you some information and learnings from some powerful individuals that are way makers, water walkers, hope dealers, and faith walkers. These individuals have successfully turned their casualties into catalysts of courage, pain into purpose, and even their most devastating moments into destiny-building successes. These individuals refuse to be disturbed, distracted, or disrupted, because what was on the other side of those distractions and disturbances and disruptions and the challenges they faced, the failures and the losses and the sufferings, were their greatest possibilities, their greatest success stories, their destiny, their prosperity, and life-giving and sustaining purpose. So if you aspire to be great, if you are inspired to achieve, conquer, or dominate in life or in business, if you are motivated to move differently in life, move with expectation, and leave a legacy of greatness from the womb to the tomb, my friends, you are tuning into the right podcast, so you too can be brilliantly broken. I'm so excited about today's speaker. She is an influential powerhouse. I admire this next speaker immensely because of her impeccable work ethic, for the sharpness of her mind, and her unshakable resilience, tenacity, and sheer will. She is an amazing businesswoman, community leader, and all-around professional. But most importantly, she exemplifies a phenomenal woman. Ms. Tina Patterson is the principal of Jade Solutions based in the Washington, D.C. greater metropolitan area. Jade Solution provides arbitration, mediation, facilitation, omnibus person, and conflict coaching and consultant services. Ms. Patterson has 2 decades of arbitrator, mediator, and facilitator experience and provides these services in person or virtually and on other online formats. She is on the neutral panel or roster of the CPR, the AAA, the FINRA, and dispute resolution boards. Ms. Patterson serves on the Leadership Advisory Council of Women Impacting Public Policy. She is a commissioner with the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. She's a commissioner with the Montgomery County Maryland Remembrance and Reconciliation Commission. She has been featured in numerous publications, including the Association for Conflict Resolution's AC Resolution magazine. And also, she's been featured in the George Washington University Center for Excellence and Public Leadership newsletter, the American Bar Association section of Dispute Resolution, Just Resolutions newsletter, and many more. So join me in welcoming Ms. Tina Patterson. Thank you for joining us today, Tina.
Tawanda, thank you, and thank you for reading that long bio. I really appreciate it. Oh, my goodness. It's good to hear your voice.
Make sure the listeners know your receipts. Like, you got the receipts. Like, You come well equipped, and you also have a wealth of knowledge and experience and gems of greatness, and the path to obtaining those makes you an ideal speaker for Broken Brilliance. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really looking forward to having a conversation with you.
So, Tina, would you like to tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself? I know we went over your bio, just a summary, a snippet of your bio, but is there some other things you would like our listeners to know about you?
Sure. I am an African-American woman. I am the first in my family to attend and graduate from college. I am a military brat, meaning that my father was in the service and we traveled. Because of the branch of service that he was in, we did not travel abroad because it was too hazardous. Knowing that I am the first college graduate in my family has its perks and it has its minuses. I was born in Louisiana. I was born in an area that the National Institutes of Health refers to as the Cancer Canal. My immediate family no longer lives in that area, but I bring that up because when we talk a little bit later about some of the aspects of being a business owner, I keep that in the back of my mind. I am the eldest in my family, and I have been in business roughly, I want to say 25 years, and we can talk more about the formation of Jade Solutions, but I think that's a good place to start.
Okay. Your background is simply amazing, and it begs for us to dig a little deeper. So let's talk about your childhood in Louisiana. Could you tell us about this in the Cancer Canal for those of us that do not know?
Absolutely. I was born in the Cancer Canal area, and what that refers to is there's an area that is part of Louisiana, Mississippi, and in the latter part of the 19th century up until, I'd say, the middle of the 20th century, maybe later, this was an area where chemicals were frequently dumped into the water. And it was the drinking water used. Think White Flint, but this is pre-White Flint. I'm sorry, White Flint, Michigan. Pre-White Flint. This is the area that we're talking about. Because my father was in the Navy, I was born in Louisiana, but within 3 months, my father had taken orders to move to Southern California. Okay. And that's where my sibling was born. But I was born at a time when the Deacons of Defense and Justice, where those of you who know that aspect of history, rode the roads of Louisiana to address the Ku Klux Klan and some of the other injustices. This is also an area where the governor of Louisiana had to call in federal troops to help with quelling some of the marching that was taking place because civil rights were being abused and not being offered or letting people of color exercise their civil rights. It also means that I grew up in a time when schools were being integrated, and I can clearly recall being in the first grade, and this was in Yorktown Station in Virginia. By this time, we had moved from Southern California to Virginia, and going to a school, and little boy sitting next to me in school said, "You didn't want to sit next to," and you can fill in the blank what he said after that. Okay. And the teacher didn't know quite what to do, but my father did. He showed up at the school and had a conversation with the teacher. The little boy was moved. I wasn't. Okay. And my father's moniker to both my sister and to me was, "You're going to get an education. You are going to get an education. What that looks like, I'm not certain, but you must have an education. That is something no one can take from you." Now, this is coming from a man who I later found out had not received a college degree, and he literally dropped out of high school and joined the service. He later got his GED, but he was adamant. He was concerned that as little black girls that we were not always going to get an equal share or get an opportunity to be at the table. So he wanted us equipped as possible. It didn't just apply to education. It also applied to how we spoke. And, of course, there are going to be those who say, "Oh, you sound like you're white." and we couldn't use slang when we spoke to our parents. We had to yes, no. Now, he did not want us referring to people as yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, but he definitely wanted us to speak clearly and enunciate our words, because he knew that there were going to be people who were going to make judgments about us before we even walked in the door or opened our mouths. It also meant that he wanted us to be able to handle ourselves in social situations.
Yeah.
For me in particular, as I grew up, it meant that he wanted me to be as independent as possible. And what he did was I learned how to change my oil, change the tire. If I needed to change the headlight on the car, I could. But he wanted me to be resilient. He wanted me to be able to recover if I needed to fix the car or determine what was needed with the car. It also meant that he had a very, and I'll never forget these words he shared with me. I was in high school, and it still resonates with me, and it applies in multiple areas of my life. He said, I want to share this with you because you need to know this. Not every white face is your enemy, and not every black face is your friend.
That's correct.
And when he said that, I was stunned. I'm this little black girl, this time a teenager. I'm growing up in New England. We've moved again.
Okay.
And we're in a predominantly white community. And he's saying this to me, and I'm thinking, well, what do you mean by that? But those words resonate with me. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I just thought, oh, gosh, Dad, really? I don't want to hear this. But he shared this with me. The other, and this has to do more with relationships, he said, you can do bad all by yourself, honey. Mm-hmm. Better for you to take care of yourself than to take on something that's going to weigh you down.
Mm-hmm. And the wisdom that your father, even with his limited education, he had wisdom. He had intelligence. You know, just because you're educated doesn't necessarily mean you have wisdom or intelligence. But your father had intelligence, he had wisdom, and he knew the power of education and what that would do for you in your future. It reminds me of the letter that I believe it was W.E.B. Du Bois wrote to his daughter when she was about to go off to boarding school. And one of the things he wrote in there was that you will have to take your cold bath bravely, I believe it was. And it seems like your father was in preparing you to deal with social, economic, civil unrest, and also what you were going to experience in life was helping you to build that emotional muscle that you would need in order to thrive in society, in our nation, in the world. So many powerful gems that you have shared, that you have learned from your father. And just the story that you just shared from first grade to being a teenager has been, from the time you were born in the cancer canal and to being a teenager, there's so much packed in there. So out of those experiences, what did you draw from those experiences that made you want to be an entrepreneur?
From those experiences, here's three words that come to mind that from my experiences that I think have shaped me and are under the underpinnings of me as an entrepreneur. The first is, and I'm going to give you the definition of these words because I think oftentimes people make up their own. First is tenacity, and the definition of tenacity, the quality of being tenacious or of holding fast, persistence. The second would be perseverance, and that, in this case, the definition is persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. And the third is resilience, and I mentioned it a few minutes ago, but resilience in the definition is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, otherwise thought of as toughness. I know I spoke mostly of my father. My mother was very much a presence in my life, but the both of them, that was the one thing that they impressed upon us, this and they didn't call it tenacity, perseverance, and resilience. They just said, I can't. It's not part of your vocabulary.
All right. I like it.
You cannot say I can't. You have to at least try.
I love that, because you know what? I can share with you briefly that one day I took my niece to the playground, and there was these monkey bars, and she is small for her age, and she was like, I can't, Auntie, I can't. And I got so mad at her. It shocked her. I said, never say that. Never say you can't do something until you try it. And then if you need help, you may need help the first a couple times, that's fine, but never say you can't. And eventually, I helped her on the monkey bars, and then eventually that day she did it on her own. And I say, see, everything is possible on this side of heaven.
Yes.
So yes. I share that to say that was my wisdom passing those gems of wisdom to her, to take I can't out of her vocabulary.
Yes, absolutely. And we need to hear that. Sometimes it comes up as that small, quiet voice in the middle of the night, or when you're sitting there thinking, I can't do this. I'm so tired. I'm exhausted. And then you hear, I can't is not part of your vocabulary, but also help is part of the vocabulary, whether that is help in the invisible sense, calling on the ancestors, Jesus, whomever you call on for assistance, direction, guidance, support, but also in the physical sense, calling that friend, that mentor, that circle that you know is going to step up and step in if necessary.
And I don't know where we learn in society that asking for help is a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength, because no one knows everything about everything. No one is perfect. And they, so being able to assess that, I need help, I need to collaborate, I need to get some assistance from others in order to achieve this milestone. And that's what I was sharing with my niece as well, is that that's a strength, to be able to identify that, look, I need help. I might not always need help, but I need help today with this particular task until I'm able to do it on my own. If I ever get to be able to do it on my own, I may always want to collaborate. But I don't know why we are so fearful, even in the workplace as well as in business and society, to ask for help. And people consider that a sign of weakness.
Some of it is cultural. As a Western culture, we have adopted the concept of individualism versus taking on the collective behavior. Individuals, in the individualistic culture, it's each person for his or herself. And as you indicated, the asking for help is considered a sign of weakness or that inability to do something, versus in a collective culture, all of the resources come together. So if your best skill is, let's say, cooking, you cook. Yeah. If my best skill is gardening, I garden. And together we thrive, we survive, we advance. It's this individualism that really makes it difficult. And sometimes we're very much aware of our weaknesses or where we could really use the assistance, but it means putting the ego aside and saying, I don't do this well. Let me delegate this. And sometimes as entrepreneurs, it's very difficult. You want to have your finger on the pulse of everything, and realistically, that it's not possible. It's either going to burn you out, or it's going to have you so weighed down in the minutia of the business that you're not moving and advancing the business forward. And sometimes it means really taking your hands, opening that fist and releasing and saying, I can delegate this to this person. But underlying that, and underlying, as you said, asking for help, is trust. Who do you trust? And I will be the first to say, as an entrepreneur, trust your instincts, trust your intuition. We oftentimes, as business owners, we're eager for our business to grow, and we want our business to grow quickly. And we hear these stories about how this person made $1 million in 15 minutes. That's really not true. For most of us, it is a slow grind, but we move. Think of the story about the train. I think I can. And it's that gaining that momentum, but it's also saying, this is not right. I'm on the wrong track, or I'm on the wrong track with the wrong group of people. I need to change my surroundings so I can get where I need to be, and shedding it and looking and saying, I recognize the lesson that I've learned here. I don't need to continue to learn this lesson.
Yeah.
And advancing forward.
Absolutely. And I always share with entrepreneurs and small businesses that I get the chance to speak with about shedding their ego. And for me, ego is an acronym that stands for edging greatness out, edging goodness out, and dare I say, edging God out. Because there's no one, and it's very seldom, very seldom on the road to great and immense success will you travel it alone. I know people like to say, I'm self-made, or I did it on my own. Someone had to give you an opportunity. Someone had to buy your product or services. Someone had to invest in you in some way, shape, or form in order for you to achieve immense success and continuous success. And then with the ego issue, and I have to do it on my own, and our culture where it's like a cutthroat dog-eat-dog world as far as business and being assimilated to that culture has led to us adopting some harmful behaviors that have stopped our growth, not as just individuals, but as a nation, and that is asking for help. Recognizing that we don't have to always be the smartest person in the room. Sometimes it's better to close the mouth and open the ears because you may learn something. And you don't have to hold another person down in order for you to rise. In fact, by lifting others, we all rise. Speaking of something I just learned about related to Australia, and they have a syndrome. It's called tall poppy syndrome. You ever heard of that?
I have not.
And it's where they call tall poppy syndrome is where they have to hold someone else down in order for them to climb up. So in order for somebody to win, somebody has to lose. In order for somebody to excel, somebody has to be, held back and fail. And they get into this, I must achieve mode, and they hurt others without hesitation in order for them to be successful. And they call it the tall poppy syndrome. Like we call it dog-eat-dog world, crabs in a bucket. Or things of that nature. See, we're okay as long as we're on the same level, but as soon as you start to go beyond me in any way, then that's a problem. And for me, that's a problem, period. Because from my standpoint, anytime I help somebody else be successful on their journey, I'm already a success. The shadow that they cast because of all their successes automatically makes me successful, and that's the way I think. What are your thoughts, Tina?
The crabs in a pot syndrome is one that I can relate to in the literal sense, because as a child we would go crabbing and we would bring the crabs home and we would see the crabs would crawl over one another trying to get to the top. I think there is something to be said as to how that relates as a business owner. It's a dangerous concept. It's also a very it's a popular concept. There are countless books that suggest that in order for one business to succeed, you have to take out another business. And I don't ascribe to that. What I do look at is the competition, which is healthy. See what your competition does and then think, what do you do differently? What can you do differently? And it doesn't mean that you have to tear down the competition, but it certainly means you decide what sets you apart.
Yeah.
And I also want to talk about this in the context of as women, especially women business owners, because sometimes what we see is what I call the queen bee syndrome. And it's a woman tearing down another woman. And when we look at women business owners or female business owners versus male business owners, we see this, or I see this more often with a woman business owner. And it's unfortunate because oftentimes the opportunities that we have as women business owners, we're still trying to strive and achieve those. And when we're dividing ourselves and making comments or trying to put down someone else, it reflects poorly on us. Mm-hmm. When the water rises, all ships rise. But if you're busy shooting holes in another boat, trust and believe at some point those holes are going to end up in your own boat because you're not taking care of your own business. Mm-hmm. For me, the idea of, and everybody, and as an entrepreneur, it also means having thick skin. Everybody's not going to like you. Everybody's not going to need your product. Everybody's not going to need your service. And recognizing they may need to go someplace else. They may need to work with someone else, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. You want the customer that's going to be ideal for your business, for what you do. And if it's not a fit, release them. I'm a firm believer that when you release something that's not a fit for you, the universe abhors a void and will fill it.
Yes.
With exactly what you need. So when we're tearing down, that literally can come back. Mm-hmm. But also as part of that resilience, when you are the one that's being torn down, shutting it out. Don't integrate it. Don't absorb it. Mm-hmm. Just because somebody else is upset with you doesn't mean that what they're saying is actually true. Mm-hmm. I think about a comment that a colleague had posted on a site a few days ago. He wrote, "Not everyone in your circle is in your corner." Mm. And I had to pause and think about that. Because it's true.
That is powerful and true.
It's true. It's powerful. It's true. But it goes back to the tearing down. Sometimes the very people that are tearing you down are the closest to you. I think about the Lao Tzu quote, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer.
Yes, yes. And speaking of, competition, I subscribed, and I've always, even before the pandemic we found ourselves in right now, that there is more success when you collaborate. And so when I look at competition, I think of how can I turn my competitor into my collaborator, because collectively we can achieve more. We can bring more value to the market. Absolutely. And then when you spoke of the Queen Bee syndrome, I love that. I love the Queen Bee. I know I've heard it and I've read about it, the Queen Bee syndrome. And from my career path as to an executive and a business owner, what I can share with you is that I've had some great mentors in my life that helped shape and mold me, and also the people I was afforded the opportunity to work with helped mold me. And what I would say is that what I've learned is that once I became a leader, it stopped being about me and it started being all about the people that I serve, one. And two is that it's okay to be the first one at the table, but don't catch the case of the only. I can only be the only one at the table. And that's when I talk, especially to women, I say, don't catch the case of the onlys. It's okay to be the first one. You're the first black woman of this, the first woman of that. That's all wonderful. But make sure you take those heels off and jam them in the door so other women can come after you. Having another woman at the table does not limit your possibilities or success. Actually, it adds credibility that more women need to be at the table with the value that they bring. And the last thing I would say is that anytime a woman speaks negatively of another woman or another woman business owner, or if you're holding another woman business owner back or a woman in the workplace back, just know that every time you do that, you marginalize your own success. And I strongly believe that. And like you stated, Tina, when the rising tides, it lifts all ships, unless you drill some holes in your boat and in your ship. So those are some powerful messages, the Queen Bee, the marginalization, the competition that you spoke about. And I hope that people will take away those great gems of greatness. So given all this wisdom and all that you've learned on your journey, tell us how Jade Solutions was formed.
Jade Solutions was 4 years in the making. I was completing Leadership Montgomery, which is a leadership development program for people who reside in Montgomery County, Maryland, and I was working for a federal contractor. One of my classmates said, "You should start a business. you should start a business because you're African American and you're female. And I looked at him and I said, that's not a reason to start a business. Actually, at that point, I had already been providing alternative dispute resolution services. That's the mediation, arbitration, and facilitation services. But it was a side gig. And so fast forward, I was working for a company, and this goes back to the queen bee syndrome. I was working for a company, and the owner of the company had a temper tantrum one day and started yelling in a meeting. And I talked to my boss afterwards, and I said, I don't think I can do this because if she has another one of these temper tantrums directed at me, I might say something, and I'm worried. And so we agreed that we would part ways. And as I got in my car that day, driving home, I called this classmate, and I said, it's time. And his response was, what do you mean it's time? I said, it's time for me to form the business. Let's take it from being a side hustle to being full-time. And Jade was a name that I had been mulling over for years. If I were going to start a business, what would it be? Jade is the stone that we know of in the U.S. is Jade. But Jade, also the first 5 letters of the company's name are the first names of my godchildren. So Jessica, Adrian, David, Ellington, and Sydney. It's the first initial of each of their names. But it also, to me, represented the stone jade. In the Western culture, we think of jade as this beautiful green stone. But in the Eastern cultures, before they used knives, and knives in the sense of metal, jade is one of the strongest stones that there is. And so there was jade cutlery, and jade was used on the tips of spears. It has a mythological background of jade is given as a gift. And if you are out of integrity, if the person who receives the jade is out of integrity, the jade will, quote, roll away from them. That means it'll fall off of them, or they'll lose it, or it will crack or break. But jade is known as a stone of integrity. So a person who's wearing it has to be in integrity. It's a stone, a strength stone as well. It represents strength. So it's for that reason that I could see the intersection of the children's names. Well, they're not children any longer. They're young adults at this time. But also what it meant to me as far as that stone and what it represented. And it's also multicolored. So in the West, we think of it as being strictly green. But jade, which is really 2 stones, jadeite and nephrite, comes in a number of colors: purple, yellow, green, black, orange. And that's why you see the colors in the logo for my company.
Wow. And I did not know the full history behind jade and the multiple uses it was used in the East, especially its resilience, its strength, the integrity piece. Those are some powerful things, and it's even more powerful when you put the next generation of leaders' names in the name of your business. That also speaks to strength and power. You've already knighted, so to speak, the next generation to be successful, and that's powerful in itself. And I like what you stated about turning your side hustle to full time. Can you share with the listeners how do you we know the catalyst. You told us about the catalyst for doing it, but how did you tactically go about changing your side hustle to your full-time job?
Conflict is inevitable. Jade Solutions LLC helps clients simplify and resolve disputes by finding solutions that bring resolution, closure, and certainty. Jade Solutions has helped clients resolve a wide range of issues, from division of property to business dissolution to developing strategic plans to community engagement. We have decades of experience and would be honored to serve as your mediator, arbitrator, or facilitator. To learn more, please visit jadeitesolutions.com. That's JADEITE solutions.com, or call 240-780-8468. Mention Broken Brilliance and receive a no-cost 30-minute consultation.
And this goes back to the tenacity. Mm-hmm. It is holding fast, persistence, but also planning. Mm. And there were times when I literally would write down, what is it that I want my company to do? And I already knew at that time that I was providing the alternative dispute resolution services, but what else did I need to supplement? And I strongly recommend for companies to have a diversified portfolio. Does that mean that the work that you're doing should be opposing? No, but it means that you should have a menu of services that you provide that you can say, if this part of the business is lagging, this part of the business can carry forward. Or as we are right now in the midst of this pandemic, if all portions of the business are not at full speed, what can lead you? What can allow you to continue to stay in business while you either address or pivot in these other areas? So I looked at what services the company could provide. I thought long-term, so I had a 30, 60, 90-day plan. I had a 5-year plan, and then I had 5 years and beyond what my vision was for the company. And I had regular check-ins with myself. Am I on track? Is this really a viable area? There are things that I had to shed in terms of things that I thought would be services that the company could provide. I got certifications within the first 6 months. I took the liberty of going to trainings, asking questions, getting the company certified. I did not wait months. I got my company registered with the state of Maryland within the first 2 weeks that I decided I was moving forward. But I also found advisors, and I make a distinction between advisors versus mentors versus sponsors. And I had advisors. Some of these people had been in business for a number of years, and I would ask them questions about, is it worthwhile for me to go to this 3-day conference? Yeah. And I wanted them to be honest with me, because when I first started out, I was working with 2 things. I had unemployment checks, I had some savings, but I also knew that access to capital as a woman-owned business and as a woman of color was going to be a challenge. So I needed to be wise about where I was investing and what the return on the investment was going to be. And rather than run into something because everyone else is doing it, and we know about the fear of missing out, well, everybody else is doing it. I had to ask myself, is this something that I need to do? Do I need to do this now, or is this something I can do later? So I got the company certifications. I also recognized that I couldn't be the prime or the lead on everything because my company didn't have past performance. We could use my experience. So I had no problem, and this is where putting the pride aside and saying, I don't mind being a sub. I don't mind being a sub. I don't mind getting a share of the work. I reached out to people in my network and told them that I had established my business. I pared down. Friends of mine would laugh at me because when I say I pared down, I literally looked at my expenditures and said, what's not necessary? Am I really watching cable television every night? I wasn't. So when I called the folks at the Verizon, I said, I need to cut back my service. And the salesperson went back and forth with me. And then she said, you really aren't watching television, are you? No. And they cut the cable. And I have internet only because I can get the information I need elsewhere. It also meant what I call the 7 ups: showing up, following up, speaking up, and really being clear about asking what's the next step up for me in terms of interfacing with others when I go to an event, and who do I want to be around? Where do I want to be? It's a constant checking in and asking for feedback, asking for feedback and asking that circle of people to be honest with you. There are going to be people who will tell you, oh, you're always wonderful, you're always great. And we all know, or I know, I'm not always wonderful, I'm not always great. And I need that feedback to say, sis, I hear what you're saying, but you might want to reconsider. Those have been the elements that have helped me. And then in those moments where I'm afraid or I'm feeling uncomfortable, for the person to say, you need to just take a break. Take 15 minutes, catch your breath if you can. And understanding that I may have to say, I can't do that right now. I may need to wait until later today. Mm-hmm. Those people who are going to surround you and say, we got your back.
Mm-hmm. And so I want to dive a little bit deeper, if we can, into you said there's a difference between an advisor, mentor, and sponsor. Could you share with the listeners briefly what the differences are for you?
Certainly. So an advisor is a person that you would go to for advice. They may be someone who's in your industry or another industry, or a subject matter expert in a specific area. Let's say it's you want to know more about marketing or networking, but there's someone who's going to give you advice. They may make suggestions. A mentor is someone who is literally going to help you. You sit with your mentor and you said, these are the goals that I want to achieve. I want to be a better speaker, or I want to better understand how to read a solicitation. And your mentor is going to provide regular check-ins with you to see where you are. What do you need in terms of resources? They may give you advice, but they are not. They could be a peer. But oftentimes when we think of mentors, we think of someone who is more seasoned than us. Yeah. A sponsor is much, in some ways, like a mentor, and here's the clear distinction. A sponsor is going to use their social capital to help open a door for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
A sponsor is not going to be checking in with you regularly. You may see them once a year. Or you may have that phone call. But the sponsor is the person who says, Tawanda, look, I know you want to be part of the Council on Foreign Relations. I'm going to reach out to my friend Sydney and talk with him, but this is what I need you to do. I need you to have your CV in order, and when it's time, I want you to send it, or I want you to contact Sydney and tell him that I suggested that you reach out to him. That's a sponsor. A sponsor is investing their social capital, and what I mean by that is they are using their cachet, their presence, their weight to say, look, I've vetted this person. I am using my personal reputation and putting this person out there. A mentor doesn't always do that. Most of the time, they are just helping. And I'm not taking away from mentors, because mentors serve a great capacity. But a sponsor is literally saying, I'm betting on you.
Yes.
I'm co-signing for you. And
you're borrowing their equity, their influential equity. They're loaning it to you in order for you to build your own equity in the space that you want to be in. Yes. Sponsors
are very, very different.
Roles are very powerful, and they serve a certain purpose, would you say? However, the sponsor is about moving you, making, paving an access road for you. That's their primarily. In doing that, they're saying to the person that they're recommending you to, say, hey, I bet on her, $100,000. This is the one. This is the one, and I know you're going to be happy with that one. And they're loaning that equity. Like I like to say, they're co-signers. They've already co-signed the loan. And you're like, you don't co-sign loans, but in sponsors they do, because they've already, like you said, vetted you. They know the knowledge and skills and abilities you have. They know the talent you have, and they are willing to share their space and their influence with you in order for you to be successful. That's a powerful role.
Absolutely. And with this, when a sponsor supports you, it's also, as the person who's being sponsored, you have a responsibility as well. There's an expectation that you're not going to embarrass them. You're not going to put their social capital at risk. Because once you put that social capital at risk, that the sponsor is now is going to be hesitant about continuing to to open those inroads to lifting you up, because they're not sure if you are going to be what the return's going to be, if you're going to embarrass them or if you're going to not do as you say you're going to do. And I know that sounds really harsh, but when you're talking about those types of stakes, your reputation, I think about the saying, your word is your bond. But when a person has developed a solid reputation and that reputation is being tarnished by something that is not in their control, they're probably going to step back, step away, or cut their loss. So sponsors are a beautiful thing, but it's a relationship to not be taken lightly.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you spoke of just a moment ago about the 7 Ups. Show up, speak up, follow up, live up, change up, fired up, but don't give up. Tell us how you formed the 7 Ups and how, if you can, how they shaped you and helped you with your entrepreneurial journey.
Actually, the 7 Ups has been my entrepreneurial journey, and it's one, showing up, going out, and I'm an introvert. I'm the introvert's introvert. So talking yourself up to go to an event or to be in this current environment, to be at a virtual networking event, showing up and then making a determination. And as I alluded, I'm an introvert. So the idea of spending the entire day talking to hundreds of people, it can be exhausting. So I establish a number. Today I'm going to interface with 10, 15 people. I'm going to exchange business cards. That's my goal. Now, there may be more than 10 people that I interface with, but my goal is 10. And when I interface with 10 people, I can say, all right, I can relax a little. I can go and have that drink of water and sit in a corner for a second, but I have to keep moving. The follow-up is once I'm at that networking event, whether it's a virtual event or in the past a in-person event, is literally sitting down and going through those cards and saying, is this a fit for me now? Is this a fit for me later in terms of collaborating? Is this a fit for someone else? And then connecting to that person, following up with an email. Hey, remember me? I'm a big LinkedIn user, so if I can find the person on LinkedIn, connecting with them there. If it's a procurement officer and they've told me to do something, try to do it within the 24 to 36 hours after meeting them, because after that, they believe that you're not interested and it was just a casual conversation.
Yeah.
And then the as part of that following up, checking back in with them and asking, hey, do you remember this? Do you remember what we talked about? Here's an article that I thought might be of interest to you. It also means giving yourself the opportunity to how far did I get down my list? I'm sorry.
You're doing pretty good, because you went to the show up and then the follow up, and what about speaking up, that power in your voice?
So the speaking up is speaking up and asking for what you need. So you've now reached out to that person. What is it that you need? Do you want to collaborate? Are you looking for work? Is it a contract you're interested in? But also speaking up is finding out what the other person needs. How can I help you? How can I be of service? Speaking up means letting people know that your business is out here and you are, in this case, ready to serve. It also means speaking up and getting what your company needs in relation to, are there resources that you need? Are there certifications? This goes back to the tenacity. If you know your company needs to get certified and you've submitted your paperwork, don't give up. Email again. Any update, email again until you get an answer. And then once you've gotten the answer, and maybe there's a document that's missing, follow up. I send the document again. It also means that you literally are speaking up for yourself, but you're also speaking up for your company. Yeah. And then you continue in that mode, and that never stops. That's an ongoing, that you're telling people you're speaking up for yourself and you're speaking up for what your company needs are. Living up is more than most of us think, oh, you're living on the edge. No, it's living up to your standards. It's living up to what's important to you. So for my company, it's fortitude, integrity, focus, and accountability. And that applies to my company and how I interface with others. It's the staying charged up is those people around me. And I tell business owners, find a group, whether you call it a mastermind group, whether you call it your inner circle, your kitchen cabinet, those people who are going to give you that feedback, and that you can give them feedback as well. And then, of course, there's going to be those times when you need to recharge and get yourself charged up. As business owners, we're on 24/7, 365. It's vitally important that we take a moment to give our brains a break, to give our bodies a break. And even if it means it's that 5 or 10 minutes that the computer's off, the phone is turned off, we're not responding to text messages, to recharge, to revisit what our plans are. Is this really still useful? Is this really still helpful? So that we can keep fired up about what we're doing, because as our company grows, we now have others that are looking to us as leaders. We have people that are on our coattails because we're bringing them along with us, that hand that we're reaching back to. And if we're not fired up, we can't pass that fervor on to them. And, of course, don't give up. There's going to be naysayers. There's going to be those who will tell you you can't do it, that you don't have something. Don't listen to them. And it's hard. And sometimes the voice is you telling you that you can't do something, in which case telling the inner critic, have a seat, be quiet, and going back to that group and saying, I'm struggling with this. I need help. I shared with a colleague recently, and this goes back to not giving up. In our culture, and especially in the Western culture in the U.S., we often ask people, how are you? And we really aren't expecting an answer. We're expecting I'm okay, I'm good. And knowing your audience is important, but having that person that you can say, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm waiting for my tax return. I'm not okay. I think somebody is taking money from my account. I'm not okay. I've got a security breach, and I've got to get this proposal submitted. Not because you're expecting that person to take all of that burden away, but it literally allows you to say out loud, that's a breath. Yeah. To just breathe, to exhale and say, I'm staying the course.
Yeah, sometimes when when you vent to someone or you tell them what's happening, it releases that power, that thing, or that it is that power they have that has over you when you release it. And so I truly having a trusted advisor or a trusted friend where you can go and have that safe harbor conversation. Where there is no condemnation, there is no judgment. It's just sometimes you just need a listening ear. Yeah. Not necessarily, like you said, for them to fix it. It just releases it. And it also releases any shame or guilt you may have by either being in that situation. It helps you to forgive yourself, to quickly heal yourself, and that's that resilience piece so you can get back into the game.
Absolutely.
With that said, what would you say to the many business owners and the startups and the founders that keep on running into failure after failure and life keeps on knocking them on their ass? What would you say to them?
There's a Japanese proverb that I frequently call upon. And the proverb is fall 7 times, stand up 8. And what I would say to those individuals who may feel that they're down, that life has knocked them down again, stand up. And if you cannot stand up on your own, look around you and ask for some support. But fall 7 times and stand up 8. Get back up. Get back in the race. Take the time to recharge. Take the time to get the support you need, but go back to showing up, speaking up, following up, living up, changing up. And this is part of the change up. You're changing up right now. I fell down. I'm changing up. I'm getting back up again. Right. Shake the dust from your sandals. Get fired up again. It's that fall. It's fall 7 times and stand up 8. And I also want to share, delayed does not mean denied.
That's correct. Amen.
It does not mean denied. And I know it sounds like I'm talking in sound bites, but I feel like I need to share this right now because this was something that I had to remind myself, and someone shared it with me. No, 2 things about no. No is the next one, next opportunity, but no is also a complete sentence.
Amen. Yes, I love it.
Those would be my words of advice. And there will be times when one or more of those things that I just said will apply. And it may be the get back up. It might be delayed but not denied. It could be this, next one or no. And you don't have to explain anything else. It's just no.
Absolutely. And I always say to folks, from my own personal experience, what I share is that I like to fail fast, often, and forward. Because everything I have been able to achieve has been built on a mountain, a Mount Everest of failures. All my successes are sitting, that peak that you see, that's peeking out, that success, that shine, underneath that is a mountain of failures. And all you're doing is learning. And that's what life is about. You're going to make mistakes. But as long as you're learning from those mistakes and applying your new knowledge to move forward, that's a great thing, and it's a powerful lesson. I know that it can be discouraging, but you must not live in discouragement. You have to keep your why and purpose in front of you and, stay motivated and focused on what you're doing. I think that what happens is that as we're failing, we're comparing ourselves to either our peers or others in the industry, or I should be further along, or I'm this age and I should have this acquired, and that's going to be the death of us, that comparison. And so I would definitely agree with the Japanese proverb, get back up, get back into the game. It's like Les Brown says, if you can look up, you can get up. So Get back up. Now, as we come to the end of this episode, Tina, I really want people to understand who Tina Patterson is. Is there a famous quote, anecdote, or something you can share that sums you up so people will remember you?
That's a great question. I think 2 things. The first that comes to mind is Shirley Chisholm's quote, and this is one that I tell people frequently. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair.
Amen. Love it.
Bring that folding chair. The other thing that I would tell people, and this is really applicable in the entrepreneurial space, is we are constantly reimagining. So I have a friend who refers to me as Phoenix Rising. And for those who don't know what a phoenix is, it's a mythological bird that dies, and from its ashes, a new bird arises. It's the art of pivoting. It's the art of changing. It's the art of really going back and reviewing, revising, revisiting, and reshaping who we are. The company that you are at year 1 is not the company that you'll be at year 5.
Absolutely.
It's not the company that you'll be at year 10. You are constantly in that phoenix mode. Does that mean that your company is literally burning to the ashes? Absolutely not. But it means that some part of your company is growing, morphing, changing, and that's okay. It also means that as you grow and morph and change, that little baby bed that you were in at year 1, by the time you get to year 10, you can't be in that baby bed anymore.
No.
You keep the baby bed, and let someone else borrow it or give it to someone or donate it to them. But don't stifle yourself. Don't shrink into places that you've outgrown.
Absolutely.
So those would be my words. And I know it's hard. Sometimes we don't want to be seen. Sometimes we don't want to take that step. But I think about sometimes we have to walk on that faith bridge.
Yeah.
We have to take that first step and know that when you put your foot forward, that you're landing on solid ground.
Yes.
And if you don't think that you are, look behind you. The ancestors are behind you, and your circle is behind you. Those people who are going to support you and hold you up.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what would be a call to action you would leave our listeners with after our very robust and fruitful and gems of wisdom-packed conversation today?
I'm going to leave you with this because I think it applies to us as business owners, and I know in my field of dispute resolution, one of the things that is at the core of me serving others in that capacity, but it's also an underlying subtext of how often why we have disputes. Miss Angelou said, I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Amen. Absolutely.
My goal is to make people feel that they've been heard and to give them an opportunity as a business owner to resolve their disputes. But as business owners, we want people to feel that our business is serving them and we understand what's in it for them and we can serve. So at the end of the day, as business owners, we are servant leaders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is very powerful. If folks want to do business or find out more about what Jade Solutions do and the services that you provide, how can they reach out to you and find you?
Certainly. We are on LinkedIn. We have a Facebook presence, and our website is www.jadeitesolutions.com. I'll spell it JADEITE solutions.com. And we have a Twitter presence at Jade_Solutions. We also have a Facebook page. So we welcome those who want to reach out to us. We provide consultation to clients if you're looking for ombud services, conflict coaching, facilitation, community engagement, mediation, or arbitration services. This has been a wonderful chat. I've really appreciated it.
And I appreciate, and in words cannot express how grateful I am for you sharing this journey with all of us. Your story has been very powerful, inspiring, and motivating. And you, Tina, are brilliantly broken, and we are so happy that you are willing to share your brilliance, your shine, your light with us all. Thank you for pouring into us today, and we will say bye to our guests at this time. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Broken Brilliance podcast with your host, Tawanda Livingston, CEO of Livingston Works, for your emotional, mental, and business tune-ups. Support our guest speakers by following them on social media, visiting their websites, and purchasing their goods or services. You've been inspired, you've been motivated, you've been activated to move differently in your business and life with unwavering expectations. It's your time to shine. Arrest and cancel self-sabotage, self-defeat, self-hate, and every negative thought, and continuously unlock your purpose, passion, and possibilities. You have been equipped with an arsenal of inspiration and motivation to be an overcomer, a conqueror, an achiever, because you, my friend, are brilliantly broken. Remember to like, share, and tune into the next episode of Broken Brilliance.